If I may introduce to you the one you know, the one you love, the one that we will be calling back in memory, blessing us here one final time at Better Living Through Coffee, First Friday Story Night, for bringing it to us and for sending it on. Brian Rohr. Give him some thunder.
Well, it was once upon a time, it was once upon a time, it was once a long time ago. It was once such a long time ago. That time as we know it now. Well, that time didn't behave in the same way.
So I've been interested in storytelling for a long time, at least in my adult life, but where it really became interesting is in 2007. I was living in Chicago at the time, went to Albuquerque, New Mexico, where there was this big Jewish gathering that was happening, and I took a class, a storytelling class, with a man named Daniel Deerdorf. And when I heard him tell a story for the first time, I was floored. I was totally blown away. This wasn't like any other storytelling I'd ever heard. It was of the old stories. It was deep, it was rich, it was indigenous, it was shamanic, it was beautiful.
There was a village where there was a great gathering that was happening. It was a great happening. One that happened each year, where all the villages would come together for a day of sports and dancing, but most importantly, of song. For in this part of the world, everybody had a song, and they loved to show off. They would go to the center, and they would sing their song, and then the next one would come, and they would say, oh, that was a good song. But check this song out. And that one would belt out a song, and that would go on and on and on for hours and hours and hours. Everybody had a song. When you came of age, you received a song.
So I tell the old stories, right? I tell the old myths, folk tales, fairy tales from many different cultures. One of the reasons that I tell these stories in particular, both it's what I've studied and what I've learned, but these stories are the ones that have lasted. These are the stories that have been around for hundreds or thousands of years. They've been passed by peoples, you know, from generation to generation.
Well, almost everyone had a song. You know, there was that one, right? That one in the gathering who was sitting alone off at the edge by himself. The one who some of the older women would walk by and they would just go, can you believe it? A man with no song. Can you believe it? He had no song. And because of that, they called him No Song. And No Song went about his days often alone. But what he loved to do, what he was great at, was hunting and tracking and being in the woods and amongst the living world.
A lot of times when I start a story, I may say, I talk about time a lot. Once upon a time, behind a time, above a time, below, a long time ago, before time even began, there was another kind of time. Before that, there was another kind of time, and before that, there was a kind of time that wasn't even time at all. It was like a great river flowing through the world, and on and on and on. And part of the reason for this is to get the conscious mind, the rational mind, the logical mind to let go, because these stories aren't logical.
One day, No Song was walking through the woods, just got done having a great conversation with a bluebird, when all of a sudden, an idea came to his mind. It was an outrageous idea. It was a crazy idea. It was an utterly pointless idea, and because of this, he loved it. And the idea was this. He was going to make a giant stew for no one in particular and for absolutely no reason.
They somehow, when we hear these stories, no matter how strange or how weird or how wonderful they may be, we hear them, there's something that touches us deeply. There's themes, there's archetypes in them that are both universal and very personal and unique.
It just so happened that in that part of the world, at that very time, do you know who was wandering through the forest? Lord Coyote! Lord Coyote just happened to be wandering through the forest at that very time. And he sniffed the air. And he said, "Oh, something smells good." And you know how Coyote is with his appetite. When he has an appetite for something, he will stop at nothing to get it. And so he started following his nose and following that smell all the way through the woods, up this hill, across this creek, under this bush. And he followed and he followed and he followed until, and it was night at this point, he saw the fire and he saw the stew in the clearing. And he stayed just outside the firelight for a little while.
When we get into the story, we get into the realm of the intuition, we get into the realm of the magical, and we get into the realm of deep, deep emotions.
He stepped into the light and looked at No Song. And he said, "What do you take for that stew?" And No Song looked at Coyote and he said, "Coyote, you're Lord Coyote. You're the Lord of Song. I know exactly what I want. What I want is a song. And not just any song. No, I want a song that will make people weep when they hear it. I want a song that will heal people's hearts. I want a song that when people hear it, years and ancestors and ages of forgiveness will happen in a moment. I want a song that will make lovers want to love more. I want a song that'll heal the sick. I want a song like that.
The style that I've learned in the Miss Singer style of storytelling is, it's more like jazz. We know the bones of the story, but we never know how it's going to come out. There's a storyteller, Gioia Timpinelli, who says, "I know the story, I just don't know the words," right? And that's kind of how it is the story comes out however it does, and it depends on my mood, it depends on what the story's message wants to be delivered that day, it depends on the audience, it depends on so many different factors.
Coyote said, "That is a mighty powerful song you are asking for. A song like that has certain conditions." "What are those conditions?" asked No Song. "Well, first, that song can never be sung at the wrong places." Sung at the wrong places. Oh, you think that I would sing a song like that in the wrong place? I would never sing a song like that in the wrong places. Okay then. Well, the second condition is a song like that can never be sung at the wrong times. Sung at the wrong times. I know the sacred. I know that this would be such a sacred song. It could only be sung at certain times, the right times. I would never, ever sing it in the wrong times. Well, if that's the case, then you got yourself a deal. Whew.
The heart of the story, the heart of the storyteller, the heart of the listener are all informing each other, are all having a conversation, are all helping to bring this story forward in this particular way.
And every time people would come up to him and they would say, oh, you must come to this event. Oh, you must come to this happening. This is the most important thing. I wouldn't ask you, but really. And his whole schedule was full, like a year and a half out. And he would go and he would go and he would perform his song, and everywhere he went, people would heal. Everywhere he went, tears would fall down. Everywhere he went, people would be so ecstatic and happy and full of gratitude. And over time, he was spending more time in this village or that village, and he was spending less and less time in the woods, communing with the living world. One day, he was at some village. He didn't even know which one he was in anymore. And it was nighttime, and he was sleeping in his tent. And as he was sleeping, he didn't notice a sound of something or someone approaching that tent. And as he was sleeping, he didn't notice the flap of the tent lift up and a hand reach under, or maybe it was a paw, and reach into his heart and take back that song.
Now, the old storytellers, they used to say, I tell the story the exact same way every single time. Once there was an anthropologist who heard a storyteller tell the same storyteller or the same story at 2 different times, and it came out different. How could he say that he's telling the story the exact same way? Every time it's coming out different, because it's not the words. We live in a literate culture right now where the same way means the words are exactly the same. But the oral tradition means the bones, the essence is what comes out the same.
Well, it was that time of year again. It was that time of year again, the time for the annual gathering, where all the villagers of all the villages came together for an afternoon, an evening full of sport and song, where everyone shared their song with each other. For everyone had a song. Well, almost everyone, except for that one sitting off to the side by himself. Can you believe it? A man with no song? Can you believe it? That is all I know of this story. Thank you so much.